that I ran around the stadium at Uyo to underscore that even at 61, I'm still able. So, Mr. President, without going much into a lot of discussions, I want to let you know that I'm also a visitor. I'm a guest. I did not organize this, so I'm a guest here. So I pay tribute to those who organized it, so that we can come and rejig our brains. I think this is where you and I function most, putting on our thinking caps and then delivering what the people want. So I thank them. And I think that team is led by my dear wife. Ekaite, God's will Akbabu. So I thank you. Well, when she thought of birthday, I don't normally celebrate birthdays. I'm not even sure whether that date is correct. So, but I know that from January 1 to 31st of December, I must have been born in one of those days in between. So that's why I don't normally celebrate birthdays. I love going to motherless babies. I was very well known at Isolo, in the motherless babies home. I used to go there to sit down with those children. And this is just by the side. Whenever I thought this 9th December was coming, I would go there and say, well, I must have been born one day in between 1st and 31st December. Therefore, let me choose that day to go. And I learned a lot from the experience I obtained there. So looking at the hall today, I will say the President of Nigeria, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, chosen by the people of Nigeria, elected by the people of Nigeria, even from the lead speaker, INEC owes you a lot of explanations. Because he pointed out that nobody should ask you a question whereas Peter Obi was third. So I think people tend to think that the party that came second was PDP. No, PDP went down, down, down. I think the issue actually, yeah, I think Peter Obi was third. Am I right? So why do people think that Labour did well? How could they have done well when they were third? They were third. Labour was third. So when they say, okay, don't ask the president a question, don't ask Peter Obi, they seem to forget that the person who actually contested and took second was His Excellency Atiku Abubakar. If everybody forgets him, I won't forget him. Because he was Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and he took second in that election. So INEC, from what the lead speaker has said, must explain to us how you will lose election in Lagos during the presidential election. And Lagos is your base. And like Mr. Fowler was trying to explain, the policies you put in place in Lagos is what has made Lagos the biggest growing economy in West Africa for a city. The biggest. He was trying to point out that even in terms of revenue generation, you made 600 million a month. But by the time you met the internally generated revenue autonomous, you brought in autonomy that even the House of Assembly did not understand when you said they must become autonomous. You were now able to put the parameters in place that today Lagos is getting almost 59 billion a month. Is it not possible for Nigeria? So whatever we are hearing today is not new. It's the fact that you have the right set of people to implement. You have a senator as president, you have a senator as vice president, and you have a senator as senate president, and a former governor for that matter. So I'm happy that you have listened. I've taken notes for you, and I will come to the villa so that we discuss all the issues that have been laid out today. So, our dear President, in fact, one of the other explanations that INEC will make to you is how we will win all the federal house seats in Ebonyi State. And we won the 3 Senate seats in Ebonyi State, and they said that you did not get 25%. APC won all the federal house seats, national chairman of the party. APC won all the federal house seats in Ebonyi State. We also won the 3 Senate seats in Ebonyi State. But in the final count for you, they said you didn't get 25%. So how did we win all those seats? And they gave out 350-something thousand votes to Labour Party, even though it did not help them. So I can't, but I sat down there, I was, my mind was saying that myself and the chairman of the Constitutional Review, Barao, must go back to discuss these papers. And I hope that our dear senior advocate of Nigeria, Olisa Abakoba, will give us a written paper. If you don't give us, we will transcribe from what we have recorded here. But we would like a written paper to discuss. Because this is the kind of paper that will stimulate the mind of Professor Ozegobe. Ozegobe, stand up, let the president know you are here and you were listening. So I thank you. So in reality, sir, we have achieved the essence of our meeting here. First, this is a national gathering. The president is here. The Speaker of the House is here. The national chairman of the party that requires explanation from INEC is sitting here. You do require explanation. Because I actually listen very well. Mr. President, in the legal terminology, what they were saying is that we should shift the burden of proof from the person who won the election to the person who conducted the election. Because in spite of all your losses, in spite of the fact that you won Ebonyi State hands down, I don't think they gave you 15%. That's the truth. In spite of all your efforts to turn around the economy of the Southwest, particularly Lagos, they said in the general election, conducted the same day, that you did not win Lagos. So that's what he was saying. I think that has worried a lot of legal minds, that they must explain to you whether somebody was intentionally trying to cheat you from becoming president of Nigeria, but God did not allow it. So, the Deputy Senate President, my brother, the Deputy Speaker, distinguished leaders of the National Assembly, whilst respecting the ministers and others and other protocols, I must pay tribute to my royal fathers who are here. From the Emir of Kano, to the Emir of Gazaure, to the Israel from here, is for us to go and implement. My distinguished colleagues and House of Reps members and all Nigerians. Well, sir, I had a paper to deliver, but when I saw the speech, extempo, delivered by the very brilliant mind, Olisa Abakoba, I decided to drop my paper. So that it would not look as if I cannot also do the same. Because he said he's 70 and I'm 61. Who should remember more? So I'm the one that should remember more. National Security Advisor. And Mr. President, because I ran around the stadium, a packed stadium in Uyo, people started calling me and saying, are you planning to be president? I said, do you show intention to be president by running around a stadium? In fact, Mr. President, the Emir of Azara, my brother, who himself is a surgeon, he was there, and he was quarreling with somebody in front of my house, and I asked him, I said, look at this person. He's saying that the crowd was too much, that it looks like a presidential election, a presidential campaign. I said, you don't need to quarrel, leave them. My people were expressing the love for good governance. And that is the way, anywhere you go to, Nigerians will rush. They will try to touch your clothes. because that is the same way you are respected in Lagos and globally. The very first day that you took your steps into ECOWAS, in spite of the fact that the Anglophone countries are few, and then the Francophone countries are more, they collectively asked questions. Some of them were asking in French. Nous appelons Tinubu, Asiwaju. And many of them said, he is the one. They said, then if he's the one, let him be chairman of ECOWAS. We need change in West Africa. And you were confused, you became chairman. So I want to start by congratulating you for that. That you will take bold decisions to change Nigeria, there is no doubt about that. That the National Assembly is behind you, there is no doubt about that either. Let me be honest with you, sir. You are the first president under democracy to step out there and signify your interest and say, look, I believe this man is capable of doing that job. His Excellency, God should acquire you. And people started opposing. They were not opposing me. They know that I'm capable. But the mere fact that it was you who also said, I support, and the party said, I support, they said, no, we must oppose this man. But eventually, as usual, destiny cannot be changed. And so I won. And I ran straight to your office. It is not that the National Assembly is going to be an appendage of the executive. No. It is the fact that he is the first president to get it right. And he got it right in Lagos because he brought the best brains to work with him. And that is what Nigeria needs. The right people who can think. I thank my brother, when he was talking, he talked about the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And he said he spoke to his brother, Zach. He's talking about your new chairman, that you gave the opportunity, and we cleared in the Senate. That boy is very brilliant. He's going to deliver on the reformation we are talking about in the revenue sector in this country. We need the revenue to do all the things we are talking about now. Nobody has any doubt as to the integrity of your national security advisor. Nobody. Even when he was chairman of the FCC. So his presence here, and so far the calm that has returned, is evidence of the fact that, yes, indeed, you are also getting it right in that sector. There is no country you've been to that investors are not rushing to meet you. And some that couldn't see you in Saudi Arabia ended up in my office. I told them that I'm small P. You call me small P. Small president. I'm not president of Nigeria, please. He's there in the villa. They said we can't get to him. We are bringing 5.something billion. I said, no, it's too much for me. Dollars? And they said, yes. I said, I'll take you to him. So I'll bring many of them to you. I just want Nigerians to know that the renewed hope agenda is real. The renewed hope agenda is real. Where we are today was not caused by the present administration. We are talking about years of rot and misdirection of government. And even as you are seated in this hall, people are not aware of the quantum debt that you inherited, the deep hole that you inherited, because you've decided to keep quiet to see how you can do your best to fill it up to a level where you will now start achieving something. There with Nigeria, we are owing trillions and trillions of debts. I give you only one example of a parasata. I was Minister of Niger Delta, sir. The NDDC, under me, abandoned 1,400 and something projects. This one will start and stop. This one will start and stop. This one will start and stop. So when he mentioned that Nigeria has about 1,600 abandoned projects, it means that 1,400 are in the Niger Delta. That's the truth. And if you are talking about indebtedness, they are owing 1.9 trillion to contractors. So when people bring papers and say, oh, I have not been able to get my money in 11 years, I say, how much? They said, I'm being owed 2 billion. I said, it is actually 1.9 trillion that we need to even clear. Nobody will remember you. It's too small. My uncle warned me and said, God, if somebody slaps you while going to secondary school in Port Harcourt, slap the person back, don't leave it for God. Because on that day when we get to heaven, there will be so many things for God to judge that he may forget that somebody actually slapped you. So those who are being owed, should know that Nigeria is in such the indebtedness in Nigeria is such that if you are being owed small amount, don't go to the president, don't come to me, because we have enough debts to think of. So because of that, I became a tough boy. So if you slap me, I slap you back, because my uncle said, don't leave it for God, because I don't want that part to be forgotten when we get to paradise. So I want to thank the organizers for this colloquium, of course intended to rejig not just the memories of what we know already, that this government is a corrective government. I have already said the centerpiece of our legislative agenda, which my brother, the Speaker of the House, launched the other day, is nothing but people-centered. Ours is to think of the people of Nigeria that gave us this enormous responsibility and such a rare privilege for us to look into their affairs. I come from a traditional institution. When the white people came and they could not find emirs and obas in the southeast, combined then with south-south, they picked strong people who were administering their localities well. And my grandfather, the father of my father, Okuku Dokwabi, was installed a warrant chief in 1901. He made sure that his domain, though he had these people wearing khaki up and down and all that, he had like a court, he used to sit in what they call NA, Native Authority, but he did very well, and there was peace. Even if a goat strayed from somebody's house, they would take the goat back to him in the evening. He would send the village on to drum around and ask somebody, are you missing your goats? But I know that by the time I got to secondary school, if somebody's goat should stray into Federal Government College, that goat, that goat will find his way into a pail in the bush, already being cooked as pepper soup. So the question is that Nigerians have somehow lost values. And they say in the computer, they say garbage in, garbage out. It is what we put in our children that they will display outside. So the degeneration of the ethos of the society is probably what led us to where we are today. But let's not talk much about corruption. In 1959, even when the colonial masters created Nigeria, the handing over note included the fact that one of the problems of Nigeria was corruption. In 1959, before independence. In 1959. So if somebody comes here to talk and says that government is not doing the right thing, government is corrupt, no, it started before independence, before Nigeria was born. Well, maybe I shouldn't talk much. His Royal Majesty Esunepe is shaking his head because he has an idea of what I'm saying. He must have seen the paper. You know, if we didn't meet like this, we will not raise a lot of issues. We've taken notes that we should unbundle INEC. I also believe that we should indeed revamp the Electoral Act. We've taken note that we should try to involve our traditional rulers in security, particularly in the governance of our various domains. We give so much respect to them, but we have not given them any piece of authority to administer. I think that's an area that we'll also look into. We've taken note of the fact that most of the colonial laws are still in existence by virtue of the constitution that was given to us. We've also taken note of the fact that even military edicts and decrees are still inside our laws. We will be working on those things. But my advice always to Nigerians is that in 1914, when Lord Lugard decided to amalgamate the southern and northern protectorates to form what we call Niger area, which we now abbreviate to Nigeria, because I think that was what the wife was trying to say. The wife said, why don't you just name it Niger area, because of River Niger. So other people who couldn't say Niger area now decided to call us Nigeria. He did not consult our traditional fathers. He did not consult Nigerians. And so, but I always try to advise that a child of rape should not allow the circumstances of his or her birth to mar her future. A child of rape should not allow the circumstances of his or her birth to mar her future. So what I have always tried to practice is the fact of true nationalism. The true aspect of imbibing the spirit of brotherhood across the river Niger, across even the river Benue. We must be our brothers' keepers. We must realize that there are problems on the ground. We cannot do blame game now. So when the lead speaker came, he went straight into what he says are solutions. But the solutions left a lot of gaps, which I would not want to. I'll meet him privately to explain. The aspect of bringing senior legal minds to be judges was recently discussed at the judges' conference, and it wasn't met with acclamation. They felt that most of the senior advocates of Nigeria are flying around Nigeria in their private jets, that they chose to go into money-making instead of going into the bench to give judgments. That how will somebody who is flying in the private jet come now to come and collect salary? That it may compound the problem of corruption in the judiciary. So I just want you to take it away. That even to fuel the private jet, to fly around after you have been appointed into the bench, that it may be a problem. Well, Mr. President, that's just what we shall discuss that at the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, please note that. So maybe we can think of those who did not charge us too much during election matters. Because if you are used to collecting $1 million, $2 million from one person whose salary and emoluments in 4 years may not get up to 100 million, and you are charging him $1 million, that is in today's amount, that is 1.05 billion. Where will he get that money from? Then you now come into the judiciary, and then you realize that you are now going to be managing something in the region of maybe ₦1 million in a month, or if it's like my salary, yesterday I was told 511,000 naira a month, and Mr. President may not even earn up to 2 million naira. So the person will get dissatisfied because that amount cannot buy the fuel that he needs for his private jet. His life has to come down drastically. It may be like jumping from a 13-story building to the floor. They may not function well out of dissatisfaction. But we'll look at it and see how we can find some who have been charging us moderately whenever we call on them. So, Mr. President, he talked about economic governance, and I'm happy. But he mentioned something interesting, devolution of powers. I've always believed in that. There is need for us to look at the Constitution and devolve some powers to the states. And we also believe, I believe strongly too, that there is need for us to unbundle the federal government. That means if you're having 800 parastatals, we are more or less duplicating functions. There are some director generals and executive secretaries of certain parastatals who are far more important than the minister. In fact, if you go to function, people troop to the person. Okay, just compare me, Senate President, with my brother, Kyari, the GMD or so of NNPC now. Who would they look for outside more? Is it me or him? No, if we step out together, he's here. I'm sure he's here. Where is it? But you know, if we step out there, okay, we met at the ground floor reception in Hilton, in Charles Club, before Mr. President came. You notice that over 7 people rushed to talk to you. Nobody talked to me. So even if I was a minister of petroleum, not Senate President, nobody will come near me because they've seen the man who is running a very lucrative parasata. So we will unbundle those things and see whether the ministers can begin to have authorities. Most of the problems they are going to have as presidents in the governance structure will be how to give respect to your ministers. Because some of them will push them aside into the gutter to run to the executive secretary of the other parasata who is actually delivering the goods. So there's need for us to rethink. And then, of course, we must teach the right education. In my small brief at the small observation in Angola, when I signified my interest to be an executive committee member, I pointed out to them that the last person who was there was Mwafo Rizu in 1964. They said, let's go for election. I knew it was a trap, because the Francophone countries will immediately vote. How can you talk to somebody, how can you campaign with somebody who does not understand your language? Are you going to use sign language? So I said, okay, who is your candidate? They brought the speaker of Côte d'Ivoire. So I invited him aside. I said, as a speaker, I don't know what your ambitions in future are, but if you intend to come back to this position, if you contest against me, Alassane Ouattara will remove you when you get back there. And he said, why? I clicked, I showed him the picture of the man wearing my uniform when I commissioned the International Stadium at Oyo, that is named Nest of Champions, Godswill Akpabio International Stadium. He was there along with other presidents, because it was by the authority of ECOWAS. Then the then president of, the chairman of ECOWAS was the president of Ghana. So I said, look at him here, look at me. We are wearing the same uniform. I sent people to Côte d'Ivoire to measure him, and he came. And so I need only a phone call to let him know that your speaker is insulting me. So phone him first, and then you'll find out whether you need to contest against me for this position. The next day, he came, he met the speaker of Ghana. We had breakfast, all of us, and then he now said that he had actually talked to his president. And the president said, that man is a great performer. So I have withdrawn. So Mr. President, I told him, I said, don't tell the rest that you have withdrawn, because they will sponsor another person against me. So when we went in to the IPU, they were very shocked when they said, Godswill Akpabio of Nigeria. And they said, no opposition. The instances have been closed. So it was closed. So the deputy speaker, Benkalo, jumped up and said, the game changer. I said, you are the game changer because he gave me the idea. So that is how Nigeria has sneaked in after 59 years. So this birthday is particularly important to me because I recall when we came back from the war, our houses were bombed because my uncle was the deputy premier in Eastern Region and actually the Minister of Education at that time. So he was the man who initiated the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. So they named a hall, Akpabio Hall, and named some streets after him. So we had a problem. The Nigerian soldiers who came believed that we were Biafrans. And in spite of the love we tried to show to them, they did not believe us. They said, you couldn't have been serving in the government of Biafra, and then you say you love Nigeria. The Biafran soldiers came and said, we must be saboteurs. Because how can you still stay at home when Nigeria had taken over Uyo? Nigerian soldiers had taken over Uyo, you people are still here. So a lot of my uncles were killed. And then our houses were bombed. Unfortunately, my father had died when I was 6 months old. He died. And my mother told me that God called him to heaven because a strong boy had been born into the family. So my school father, Olaolu, now introduced his father to me when I was in class 2. And he was hunky. He used to play basketball. And I said, Olaolu, is this really your father? He said, yes. I said, how can you have a father when you are so strong? He said, see this Calabar boy. That time we did not have a Bible. He said, go and kneel down there. Raise that pail up. You want my father to die? So while I was crying, the senior prefect came and said, what did you do? I said that Senior Olaolu has a father. And the senior prefect said, yes, he shouldn't have a father. I said, no, my mother said, anybody that is very strong, and the day he's born, that is the day that God calls his father to heaven. So he said, do you know that the vice principal has a father? I said, he can't. A vice principal of school, his father is alive? He said, yes. So when they realized my foolishness, they now told me to stand up. And they tried to explain to me that even the principal of the college, who was a white man, Mr. Kerr, that his father was still alive in UK. I couldn't wait for school to close so I could confront my mother. I said, you lied to me. All the strong people, including the principal, their fathers are alive. And you told me mine died because I was a strong person who would come and look after the family. So you can see, I said garbage in, garbage out. If strength was imbued into you from birth, automatically you have no option than to struggle to survive. So, Mr. President, that's why it looks as if when they press me down, I struggle to stand up. Because already I learned to fend for myself and the people around me from birth. So how did I then come around to celebrating birthday? My school headmaster said, I'm going to fill your form for secondary school. He said, stand on the wall, put your hand on the head. I did. He said, yes, you're about the same age with your classmates. Some of them have fathers and all that. When did they say you were born? I said, they said I was born in December. And they said, no. I said, what did I say? I don't know. He said, okay, I'll put it. He looked at me, then he wrote 1962. So that is why I'm 61 years old. Then when I finished the primary school, and I tried to go to secondary school. My uncle had built a secondary school called Independence High School after I finished as a minister. And then I felt I had a right to walk in there. And then the men kept turning me back. So one day I jumped over the Isora flower and I went to sit down. And they came there to drag me out of the class. Though I was injured. But what did they want me to do? They wanted me to pay 10 naira to be a day student. Unfortunately, my mother had others older than me, and so we could not afford the 10 naira. So I ended up in the bush to watch the weather. Once the sunlight came, I would now carry football and go from house to house to look for people to go with me to play the football. And then when I go to somebody, I'll find out that the school had not actually closed, that the sun came too early, so I'll return to the bush to go and hide. So for that child to have grown, to stand before you as Senate President of Nigeria, I think it's worth celebrating. So I'm disclosing this for those of you who thought, oh, God should acquire you, managing director in a telecoms company, a lawyer, a commissioner, many years governor, many years minority leader, senator, minister, all those things. You thought I was born with a silver spoon in my hand. I was actually born with a shovel in my hand. So I am very delighted and grateful that we are all here to honor a child that came with a shovel and not with a silver spoon. And I believe strongly that the presence of the president today is an indication that he belongs to the people. My people normally celebrate me because I'm part and parcel of them. I grew with them. I know their problems. And when I was a governor, I addressed those problems. When you were governor of Lagos State, I was studying you, and you didn't know. Outside the monumental things you did in Lagos, let me tell you that each house I entered, even during your tenure, they will ask me, Barrister, when are you going home? I said, I'm thinking of this weekend. They said, please, when they are coming back, bring me a kaite or akpan. I said, why? They said, my sister, Yemi, my sister's husband, Yemi, wants the house girl to go to London. And so we will not have any house girl from next week. So bring me a kaite when you are coming back. Then somebody will actually tell me that they have only one driver. And he needs a driver for the wife because the wife has just got a job with the All-State Trust Bank. So if you are coming back, bring me Akpan. So for them, a kaite was a housemaid. Akpan was the driver. And some will even look at me and say, why are you a lawyer? You would have been very good as a cook. Your people cook so well. So I realized that the difference between the driver and the car seat owner was education. So when I became governor, I declared free and compulsory education for my people. I built additional university. I went to Ikorekbene. Those who knew Ikorekbene, it was the first experimental local government in West Africa. I brought down the prison, the walls of the prison. It had been there for 108 years. Where in that place today, I took my senators there for retreat. They did not know why. There we have 14-story Sheraton hotel now run by Marriott. They enjoyed themselves. They said, this place is beautiful. There's no difference between here and Lagos. I said, yes, because I did not like that prison mentality. I had to liberate my people. Over 6,000 classroom blocks. And because I saw a flyover in Lagos, I built flyovers in my state so that my people also see flyovers. I used for 2 years, I was running to Owerri, running to Port Harcourt to cash flight. And I saw the number of people died on the road while struggling to get to Calabar. So I said there was need for an airport in Akwa Ibom. And I built the longest airstrip. 3.6 kilometers expandable to 4.2. And by the way, sir, I made sure that it was totally compliant with international standard so that the best planes can land there even by 1 a.m., 2 a.m. We use it to carry pilgrims to Mecca from there, and we use it to carry pilgrims to Jerusalem when there was no war. I changed not just the face of my the state, physically, I changed the mental psyche of my people. And I told them, begin to think like managers of the economy and not do those who clean the crumbs after every meal in people's houses. And the story is different today. So, Mr. President, as we embark on this journey of transforming Nigeria, all Nigerians must collectively pray for you, that what you are used to doing should come to play. I have no doubt with the policies you've already started, that Almighty Allah will guide you. Your election had nothing to do with religion. It had nothing to do with party. We were electing Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the man that has a track record of governance, the man that has done it before, and the man that we believe will do it. We are not mindful of the fact that there is insecurity in the land, but we know that you will do it. You bring peace to this country. You have made men. You've turned boys into men. Many of the presidents that ran this country, you were instrumental. You fought for us under Nadeko because you wanted Nigerians to be liberated. You believe in true democracy. Above all, you are a legislator. You know the yearnings and aspirations of the poor. 185 years ago, it took the United States of America 185 years of practicing democracy before they could have a senator and as president and a senator as vice president. That was Senator Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson. 185 years. Look at us. In less than 30 years, we are already celebrating a president as a senator, a vice president as a senator. Mr. Speaker, do you have any doubt that Nigeria will change? Do you have any doubt? Everything stated here, and what I had in my paper, which I'm no longer going to deliver, I assure you, we will join you to reform Nigeria. We didn't come here for a boxing bout. That's not what brought me to Abuja. What brought me to Abuja was transformational leadership. We will transform the laws of Nigeria. We'll reform those things that we can reform for Nigeria to work. If we need to tinker more with the Constitution, we'll do so. Because by the time we are through due process, and we collate what we have been able to, to change in the Constitution, then we'll now have the people's Constitution. Because through our lawmaking, before we can change or alter any aspect of the Constitution, we must have public hearing to get the views of Nigerians, and that is what we will continue to do. So we are going to meet the aspirations of Nigerians, and that is my promise to all of you. And then we are not going to have that parliament. When I say that parliament, I mean both the National Assembly, the House of Reps, and the Senate, where myself and Tajuddin happen to be in charge with our dear colleagues. A very rare privilege, and I thank all of you. I'm sure when you elected me and my brother Tajuddin, you had expectations. will go above your expectations. That is the assurance I can give you. So thank you, Mr. President, for sparing the time to listen to me. And thank you, my dear wife, and the committees for putting this together. And thank you, Nigerians, for going to have patience for the president to do his best in the circumstances he has met himself. It is not that he's meeting Nigeria at 2.5 million barrels of crude oil a day. He's not meeting Nigeria when crude oil is $140 per barrel. He's not meeting Nigeria when the indebtedness is 5 trillion or 6 trillion. He's meeting Nigeria when indebtedness is over 48 trillion. He's meeting Nigeria at a time that NMBC no longer gives money to federation accounts. When I was a governor, they used to do that, but after a while, they stopped. He's meeting Nigeria at a time that even the oil you are producing have been sold by past administrations. And so he's now going to use, he said, to think of how to generate revenue. That's why he's going around from one country to the other and saying, come to Macedonia and help us. And by the grace of Almighty Allah, you will be helped. We are praying for you. You have the wisdom, which you already have. God will give you more. You have the strength, and you have the support of Nigerians. When you leave office, you will be celebrated. Like Gospel Akpabio is always celebrated, wherever they see him. Thank you, and God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.